So calling to order the April 14th Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting. We can start with the roll call.
Yes. Aaron Angel.
Here.
Scott Conley.
Here.
Thomas Davis. Not here right now. Sam Libby.
Here.
Oh, Tom's on the race. Is here.
Oh,
he's
Sam.
there. Okay.
Hi, Tom.
Tom is
There's so
virtual.
many names.
Can't hear you, but hello.
Tom is here, virtual. Sam Libby is here.
Yes.
Hannah Mulroy is not here. Nicholas Novello.
Here.
Brandy Reyes.
Here.
And Council Liaison Sean McCoy.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So let's move on to approve the agenda. Are there any comments or changes you want to make to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve agenda.
All right. Second that one?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And on the Zoom, we have Brandy.
In favor.
Yeah, yep, gotcha. And then Tom is raising hand. Okay, perfect. So we got everyone's voting that. Great. So then we can move on to approval of the previous month's minutes. Any corrections, comments to the previous month's minutes that we want to make? Brandy, Tom? I'm going to be inclusive of the Zoom folks here. None. Tom says none. Okay.
None.
If that's the case, then is there a motion to approve previous month's minutes?
I approve the previous month's minutes.
Aye.
I move to approve the previous month's
Got it.
minutes.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Okay. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. And Brandy and Tom. If you can hear us. Yep. Tom, raise your hand. Okay, we're good. Keep on tracking around. Okay, we can move to the public event to be heard, and we do have two members of the public that are here to speak tonight. Just a couple comments here. We will not be covering the disco toll agenda item on tonight's agenda. We will leave it lying on the table. But of course, we would love to hear if that is your topic, if it is. And you'll have 5 minutes to speak tonight because we have a small group. So, and please state your name and address for the record, and who wants to go first?
Well, I signed up first, so I'll go. Crab members, I'm Gordon Pedro, Longmont, 2639 Falcon Drive. We do not know if or when the distal land exchange may return to a PRAB agenda. So my comments tonight will primarily address PRAB's role for any future land exchange involving open space property. Chapter 14.52 of the Longmont Municipal Code is titled Open Space Disposition. Since the proposed distal toll land exchange has been on your agendas for at least 2 previous times, I hope you have all read Chapter 14.52 and have recognized that your entity is the only board or commission specifically called out in the code with a role when the disposition of open space is under consideration by the City Council. Because PRAB was the city entity most involved with all aspects of the open space program, it was designated as the entity to give Longmont residents an opportunity to be heard before a final decision by the City Council. Therefore, the code requires PRAB to conduct a public hearing before making a recommendation to the City Council. I know why PRAB was designated for this role, because I was either city manager during most of the ordinances that were adopted, or I've been a passionate open space advocate after I retired in 2012. I encourage members of PRAB to take your role seriously and be the eyes and ears for the residents anytime open space is in danger. Transparently follow the process as defined in the code. Before making a recommendation to the City Council, make certain you have heard the residents and all your questions and concerns have been answered. When the City Council refers an open space disposition case to you for a recommendation, they expect you to make a thoughtful one. The first case will tend to be a precedent-setting one. At your meeting last month, I expressed concern that the proposed distal toll land exchange is really a land grab by Public Works. I believed that then, and I still do. because after your February public hearing, PRAB members had many questions. However, I have not seen any public answers to your questions. Why? How is PRAB to make an adequate advice to the City Council without relevant information? I think Public Works does not believe PRAB has a significant role under the Longmont Municipal Code. I believe you do have a significant role. I encourage you to exercise it by doing a thorough job of analysis before making any recommendation to the City Council on any open space disposition case. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to stay seated if that's okay.
That's fine. Please.
Okay. All right. Hi, my name is Sherry Malloy, 2113 Rangeview Lane, Longmont resident since 1986. Good evening, PRAB members. I want to personally thank you for volunteering your time to serve on this board, and especially for your thoughtful consideration of the Tull Distal land swap relative to changing open space designations. I attended Coffee with Council a few weeks ago where City Manager Harold Dominguez very generally explained what Council's executive session about this issue entailed. He said this issue will be discussed again at City Council at the end of April or early May in order to engage the public a bit more. It will then come back to PRAB as this is the process the ordinance requires for a redesignation of open space. As Friends of Open Space have stated before, should PRAB vote to approve this proposal to City Council, 2 essential open space protections must be included in your recommendation. First, a conditional clause must be included saying if Boulder County does not pursue this compost partnership, the entire proposal becomes null and void. Without this, the land swap and designation change is not a benefit to open space nor the public. Instead, it's just a land grab for the city to build infrastructure on open space, which is a violation of the ordinance and a betrayal of public trust. The second vital safeguard, which must be included is the inclusion of 11 protective measures found on page 24 of your former packet. Again, Friends of Open Space representatives discussed these at our February 5th meeting with Harold Dominguez. Harold indicated these 11 safeguards to make open space whole were doable. Harold also said that only 50 or so acres would be used for any and all infrastructure at Distal, and the remaining acreage would remain open space. We left the meeting pleased. At your February meeting, PRAB members voted 5-1 to continue this conversation to discuss additional information you requested. I wrote down 6 or 7 questions PRAB members identified for staff to bring back to you. These include 1, get more information from Boulder County regarding timeline, what criteria is used, and suggested inviting a county representative to attend PRAB. 2, to get information from Weld County regarding process and hurdles. 3, an answer to the question, what exactly does the city want to build on this land? 4, there was a request for more information on environmental impacts such as plastics. 5, staff was asked to look into designating more land and bigger buffers on the east side to better protect the bald eagles. 6, you also asked for a timeline and expense estimates for tull restoration that might make the timeline less than 50 years. And then more information about future water at Tull was also requested. These are pertinent, legitimate, thoughtful, and necessary information requests you need to have to make a more informed discussion and decision. At this time, these questions have yet to be answered. Your charge is to evaluate the proposal to determine if there is a benefit for open space. Although confusing, thank you, it's probably good the process is slowing down, as the entire proposal is quite complex with a lot of moving parts and very significant impacts. Engaging the public more is also good, as is giving staff more time to get your answers and other concerns addressed. It's also good to slow down because the consultant Boulder County has contracted is doing an extensive deep dive into locations, technologies, process, feasibility, costs. This won't be completed for another 3 months. So it'd be good to align those 2 discussions and decisions, or let one inform the other. So in summary, 3 things are vital. 1, to follow the process the code requires, which means coming back to PRAB. 2, to address the issues PRAB has requested and address some of the concerns the public has raised. 3, should PRAB decide to approve of the proposal, that the 2 essential open space protections be included in the recommendation. These being A, no compost, no land swap, and B, the inclusion of the 11 agreed upon safeguards to make open space whole. And I made you all a copy of the 11 recommendations. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for continuing to join us and speak to us.
Yes.
And coming prepared. Great. Any comments from staff on this?
Well-
You can keep on that.
Good one.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, any comments from staff? I don't know if there's we've got people here, and I know this could probably, I had a question from a board member asking if I could touch on this at all. It's not on the agenda. I could easily touch on it in updates from staff or updates or requests from the board. If you would like me to say anything now, I'd be glad to do it if you feel like it could fit into the agenda.
Under items from staff.
See, that's later in the meeting, so I don't know if you want to adjust anything to allow the public that's here to hear those questions that
I think that's reasonable to just cover it
Sam
now.
has already raised. You want to?
Sure, I'll move that we move up item 8 on the agenda. Or I guess item 9, or just change it around, or just ask a question?
Yeah, I think you just maybe just ask a question,
Okay.
just the same way you asked before
Sure.
the meeting.
Yeah, I just asked for a small update on the schedule. Last time we're here, well, I was here virtually, but there was a referral back to executive session for March 11th, I think. Let you know just kind of where the schedule stands and what you can share about the coming couple months.
So great, so as you all know, this is not on the agenda, and I think we were in a little unique spot as staff, because typically executive sessions are exactly for that, sort of things that happen with legal counsel and others, and counsel be able to get information from staff without it being really transparent to the public until the information comes out from that. I think Harold wanted to be very transparent, saying this was going to go to an executive session. So it kind of gave you an upfront idea that council was going to be hearing about that. However, that is not opening up for me as staff to be able to discuss that at all. So I think what it really does is it gives, as Sherry mentioned, there's a lot of complex and moving parts in this. And that's, again, I think Harold on the other side of it, even prior to exec session, and I'm not saying here you want to, he wanted to have things aligned as much as possible. So to have an exec session and then have some direction from council to staff that takes into consideration on these moving parts, we wanted council, the public, and PRAB to have as much of that information kind of aligning as possible in that discussion piece. So at this point, that's what really staff is waiting for. We did have the direction to take this to executive session. Council had the discussion there. And as far as staff now, we're like you all waiting for direction from council on how to help these pieces line up. And I think a lot of the pieces in those 11 pieces and a lot of stuff you're looking for will really be coming from council direction as they get more information too. I feel like I stated bounds or...
No, I think you stated bounds. I think that's it. Gordon would know better than anybody the importance of executive session and all the moving parts. And Sherry's been at this for a very long time and is clearly in tune with, what has to occur, and the rest of you are familiar with the boundaries that we're all dealing with. Staff knows the boundaries that they're having to deal with in this situation. They probably know a certain amount of information that they're like, their chunk of this information that they have to be accountable for. So I think we're probably waiting to get an executive session on this, some of the updates, because there's literally several moving parts on this thing that will determine that.
And I think the other piece with that is there's probably some pieces we could maybe answer today in those questions that were raised, but those may shift as council gives different direction, or it becomes a little bit piecemeal. I think staff and council and Harold would like to make sure that we're kind of presenting this all in a more cohesive manner than answering one or two questions now and then knowing that may shift as we go forward.
But I have to commend you, Sherry. I do appreciate this, and I hear what you're saying, Gordon, in regards to making sure that we proceed carefully.
And all I did was make a copy of it. Dan Wolford, former open space director for the city, is who wrote up those 11 things. So that was, don't give me credit for something that's...
Well, you're here tonight, so.
Yeah, but thank you. Yeah.
So
I think it's probably a good thing that we're slowing down the process.
Yeah.
I'll put that out there.
So.
I think we see a lot of nodding of heads on that.
As a high school civics teacher,
Yeah.
you know, I have to tell students, this is not a business. This is, government moves methodically, and is, you have to allow all the stakeholders to have a voice in the process. And when you try to rush it, well, you don't get the best product always.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, the public hearing is still open, technically, right?
Mhm.
Just laying on the table right now. And City Council is still looking to PRAB as a referral to make a recommendation on this matter. Right?
Right.
Erin.
Do you have any like idea of a timeline that we're talking about? I mean, you know, I'm looking at when I want to take my vacation and things like that. Like, is this going to be next year? This year? You have no idea.
No.
You can't say. Okay. All right.
And if I did, it could change. I mean, that's the big piece, is that no matter what I said, there's definitely opportunity for changes in this too. So if I told you today you made your vacation plans, it'd probably be wrong. So,
But we'll know that.
what's that?
We'll know ahead of time that you're going
We'll
to
give you as much forewarning as possible.
that we'll need to prepare to
Yes.
make a vote. Okay. That's what I want to know.
Could I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Would it be possible for us to, those of us who've been here a couple times to speak, to be notified when there's action that's going to happen or things going to be agendized for the council or the PRAB?
I think we can look at how we get our information that goes to PRAB members out, and that's usually public information, and we'll make sure that we're using any technology or anything we can to make sure it goes to maybe people on the list.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to make a commitment I can't keep, but my commitment is I will work with Veronica and others to see what we can do to make sure we give the same notice to the public as invested in this as possible.
I don't think anybody has an interest here in burying this issue and hiding it and seeing it through. That's not anybody's intention, right? Okay. Any other comments on the public event to be heard? Okay. Let's move on. Old business. There is no old business. So we are on to new business, and we're going to talk about the Recreation 2024 annual report. Ben, you're up.
I am.
Let me share this with Zoom really quick.
It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget.
All right.
You can scroll back.
Yeah, great.
It's fine.
You want to do it? No, I'm fine. Okay, there, I'm fine. All right, so I'm going to go through, it's not a real long report. It gets into a whole bunch of numbers, so I'm going to hit some highlights as I go. Please feel free to ask any questions or have any comments. But I'm not going to read the thing, so that's why I sent it to you guys. So you can go through the details if you really need to. So starting off, this is a number we're starting to give every year. It's a big, impressive number. That's why we want to put it out there. That's everything that we do. So every spectator that we can account for, every time a parent comes in with a kid, every swim lesson, that's a number that we contact. So a lot of those will be the same person 100 times, but that's how many contacts we have within the community, all over the community. And it's pretty cool, and it's increasing. So that's going up each year right now, especially post-COVID. And we certainly feel like we're back to full speed after that. And again, this first page, we kind of just want to put a few highlights is what we want to do is each year, something different. Therapeutic recreation, we're growing. That's very exciting for me personally. It's a program that I'm very fond of and close to my heart. So with Ariana having started with us 2 years ago, right about now, she has really grown it. She's only 20 hours a week with us. She's also 20 hours with senior services. But 100 new programs last year she did. So it's awesome. I mean, we just have somebody to do these things. And so Our contacts are growing, so 300 more enrollments. That's a lot. It's not a real big program, so that's actually, it's not like there were 10,000, this is 300 more. Actually, don't know what our total number is, but that's going to be a nice percentage. It's amazing to see. We have a lot of new people, because when we didn't have a lot of staff to do this, it was a lot of the same group, but not a lot of turnover. So seeing a bunch of new people in this, it's really meaningful and really great to see. And we kind of expect that to continue. We just went to back into Cara track, or not Cara, but Special Olympics track. Thank you. For the first time in like 5 years. So that's really cool. We love being in Special Olympics programs. Just one we're real happy with. 4th of July party, that was something, and it's going to be something again. Almost 10,000 that we counted. We know a few more thousand around the event, and certainly another several thousand within viewing of the area. So we're planning for bigger and better. We know what we didn't know, some of it. We're herding some cats around that area right now to get our footprint, get the businesses involved, and we expect a great event again. And just to be hopefully be able to serve more people as far as food trucks and beer and everything else. We thought it went great, but again, we didn't know what to expect. So this year we've got a good idea. We think that 10,000 will jump up. I would guess 15 easy this year. So it's going to be fun and a long day.
Has it been located yet?
Same area.
Same area.
We're adjusting the area, but same place.
The same area.
Same place.
Great.
Yeah. If you go to the same spot, you'll be in it. And this was an interesting year where our insurance plan passes. So most of these are older adults, 55 and older. Not all of them. We certainly have their businesses involved in some of these, but their national insurance programs, we're signed up with a couple of them. So for the first time, actually more visits out of that than we had out of our annual passes, which is kind of crazy in the long stretch of things. So that's something that just keeps growing and growing. We're adopting it. It works for us for revenue. It's a good revenue producer. We don't necessarily make as much per time, but in the bulk, I've done some math, and it really does work out. So, and again, our population is aging, so this is a good thing that they're coming to us. Next one, next page.
Could there be a way we can zoom in just a little bit?
I think so. There we go.
I do want to see the numbers.
Actually, just do that.
Maybe like 100.
125, yeah. Something like that.
There we go. I can do that.
And then you can maybe scoop them over.
Yeah. There we go.
Just don't take the first one.
Yeah, you got it now.
Are you sharing this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So, a few things on this page, where people go. I think the interesting one of out of this section, this is something we're year to year, we want to see where people are recreating. We're putting into budget some software for the city, which I'm really hopeful, I know Parks is too, that would do some actual tracking of number of folks. So it's a cell phone based system used very commonly now. It's used in bulk, so it's an aggregate, but you get much stronger numbers than us trying to estimate how many people are on the street for Halloween parade.
Yeah.
So I'm really hopeful that would go through. And that'll provide us some really nice numbers. Looking forward to that. This will remain relatively the same year to year. It just kind of shows where our folks are going. Obviously, a ton at the rec center and a ton on our parks, which we all know.
Pretty impressed that Ice Pavilion is 2%, given that it's only open for
Yeah.
so long.
Ice did great. Ice had a really nice year. I'm actually, in a little bit here, I'll get kind of final numbers, so it's interesting for Ice. I'll have that going. All right. So drop-in passes. and visit attendance. The one thing I think is really interesting in so this is actual passes. So drop-ins, and so these are actually people using these facilities. Doesn't count any swim lessons, doesn't count spectators. Those are a lot more. Our numbers are a lot higher. But Rec Center alone, we're open 363 days. That is 1,066 people in a pass or drop-in per day, which is just, to me, always amazing that many people for that period of time come into that building. Memorial Building's a lot quieter. I've gotten used to it, finally. Revenues and expenses, I think you all know this has been a crazy area for us over the last couple of years. What I want to speak to on this one, I think, is just so you guys understand. So budgeted 24, that number 4374, that's actually not the original number. The original number is 4125, and because we needed to appropriate to get through the end of the year, and I think you guys remember me talking about that, we needed to appropriate some money because our budget did not, we were running out, which we knew was going to happen. We did make the 4435, so that was 310-ish thousand over the budget, the original budget amount. So that allowed us to pull that 250 or so that we made it through the year. So the budget changed at that point. And that actually, we actually expect that to be stronger this year because we lost, just looking at Rhythm at Roosevelt and Turkey Trot, that was about $50,000 just those 2 days. So it was a big impact on us at the end of the year, losing Turkey Trot and having Rhythm be rainy for the night. And with that, we're getting close to that required 80%. I have some feelings on whether that's the right amount, and I think we talked a little bit about that, but that's for another time. All right.
Can I just ask, for 2025, do we have projections similar to what you were just showing for the cost recovery? Because it was 70%. I mean, 80%
for 2025.
Yeah.
We have always. It's actually, I couldn't tell you. I don't know off the top of my head what they budgeted. That actually, it'll be low. It'll be in the low 70s. That doesn't have any meaning to me. The 80 is the target.
Right. Yeah.
I will start to have a good idea after April, and the reason is, remember, we raised prices last May. So that's kind of a cycle, and we'll get the new reality is this year just January through April, and then that's 3 months, 4 months, so I'll get a third.
Projection for it.
Yeah. We actually just have a brochure cycle because I think March, if you look in there, my monthly report, March looks terrible, but that's because our registration cycle changed. So April's going to look really big comparatively.
Okay.
But that'll equal out. It should start to give us an idea. That being said, and I'll go ahead and jump into the fact that when our budget was adjusted for this year, we had some money added in. We don't know if we'll make it to the end of the year. It's going to be close. It won't be mid-October, but we feel like December, we may run out again. The problem this year is that our budget went up $480,000, and our budgeted revenue also went up $480,000. So for the first time since I've been here, I don't know if we'll be able to get to that point. It's now $4,605,000. So it will be a challenge. We will talk about price increases this year, and what we see through April, Jeff and I will start to see, is it something we need to contemplate? Will we be close enough where we squeak through? But then we get to next year, and we have budget requests to actually, in 26, get through the year without having to appropriate or deal with that. The problem there is if they give us another $300 and some $1,000, $400,000, if our revenue is also boosted by that much, there won't be any way to do that next year because we're just going to barely get to where we want. It's not like we're going to be ahead. This year we started off 325,000 ahead, so the 480 was effectively 170 or 170ish. So if that makes sense, I know it's a lot of numbers, and
No.
you guys can contact me if you have questions on it.
Any questions or
It's a
comments
concern
from the
for
members?
next year,
Yeah.
big time.
Okay.
It's something we'll
Is
have
this
to deal
concerning?
with, and it also means the prospect of a price increase, which we don't want to do.
Yeah.
We don't want to.
So because the revenue is raising, that percentage just stays the same, and that's the problem, right? The percentage that you have to hit.
Yeah.
How can we fix that?
I proposed a plan to change. It costs money, so that's a will of city council and administration to change how we do business, and it can be a relatively large change. An example for us is we'd like to see credit. We don't make the money, but we give out. The old average, we were about $30,000 in scholarships. So that's a cost we absorb. But we don't get any credit for that on the revenue side. So even if we got that much credit, it's about $100,000 for employee passes. We don't get any credit for those things as revenue. So we don't actually make the money, but we feel like that should count towards what we're actually doing. That's our opinion. But to do that, the city has to accept the cost. So it's you guys will see my proposal again next month.
Next month.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I'll bring it
okay.
next month.
Okay.
And then how can we help?
I'll talk with Jeff, and we'll see how. I'll let you guys know. It's no secret, and by the way, nobody I talk to is against it. I mean, I think everybody is supportive of what I put forth, the ideas I put forth, and to change our percent, how we're figured out. It's a dollars thing. It's a dollars thing, and there are priorities in the city, and I respect that. And sometimes it's not us.
Great question.
So we'll see. Yeah, good question. This page here shows we're pretty diversified how we bring in money. It's a lot of different ways. So from candy to shelter rentals. And this shows our passes, the revenue we produced, how many visits we had, and the types of passes. This is where you see that number real close here, but the insurance ones did go above. Less passes, so they visit more often. Revenue, again, not as much, but when you're talking, these folks are mostly 55 and over. If these were all senior passes, it would be a lower amount anyway. So, and then these are the types. I'm just working off that last one, so just a little bit more information about that. The 30 day is always interesting to me. That's amazing, Veronica, how much that's grown, that 30-day pass. I mean, that was not a thing at all, and now people really like that. There's a lot less of the monthlies than there used to be. People don't want to have their credit card on a monthly withdrawal thing. It's a hassle when it switches over, when your credit card gets hacked and you got to change them all. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why those aren't as popular as they used to be.
But that's annual in this.
Yeah. The annual ones are the
Monthly fees.
That's a monthly,
Yeah.
monthly fee. The 30-day is just that. You come in, you buy a pass for 30 days. So that's one we came up with just a few years ago, actually.
It's kind of interesting to see the changes.
Probably big in the summer, like June.
Yep.
June.
Yeah, the 3 month and the
Kind of
30
thing.
days are,
Okay.
are huge in the summer because people will buy for their kids for the summer specifically. So they'll fit right into that package. Let's see, we got staffing. This is a fun one for me. Amount of hours worked. So 115,000 hours by all of our temp, part-time, non-benefited staff. It amazes me that we have that many folks doing that much work. We don't function without them. Said a million times, if I'm not there, nobody cares. But if our front desk isn't there, that's a problem. If nobody's there at 6 in the morning to open the memorial building, that's a problem, or 5 at the rec center. They are wonderful. They keep us going, and it's a really important thing to us year to year. So they're very important to us. And then volunteers. You guys know what you're volunteering here, so you're a part of this number. The big one here is always the programs, which that's mostly sports. It's going to be the basketball and volleyball and softball. Lots of coaches and lots of hours for those coaches. Special events, the hours aren't nearly as much, but we need a bunch of them. And again, our events don't happen without volunteers. Our sports don't run. They are lifeblood of recreation everywhere. And the reason we can afford to offer at reasonable fees.
Are we having any trouble finding lifeguards this year?
We are actually pretty darn good. So, and keep knocking. Sarah's pretty happy. We're looking pretty good. We had a resignation from a lead, so it's a full-time position. Just heard today that she's moving on to law school, so we're always happy to see them move on and up and contribute. And then sponsors. Sponsors are really fun because this is now something we've formalized. Sam Calhoun has come and talked to you. She's our event coordinator, among other things. She has created a program. So now, if we get sponsorship, and I'm talking about library and museum also, everything filters through her. So we're not asking the same businesses or piling up on the same, so that we can try to spread things out. She can also offer packages to where, hey, you want to do this event, how about this one too? It's really working well, and we expect that to grow very consistently over the next couple of years. Corporate memberships, that's an area for us to work on. We would absolutely like to see more. That number was definitely more before COVID, I think. So, but it's never been quite to the level we'd like to see. We feel like there's a market within the wellness community with business that we don't quite hit. We don't quite hit yet. So it's one we feel like we could get to. And there's our scholarship. So only 20,000, but traditionally that number has been 65 to 70,000 per year. We expect that not this year. I'll bet by next year we get pretty close to that. One of our proposals is going from $100 per child per year to $300. That $100 has been in place since before the Recreation Center opened in 2002. We feel like that's a part of that package, especially for raising fees in any form, to allow kids to do something. $300 is an impact. You can do something. $100 is one program. So the prices are not the same as they were 25 years ago, that's for sure. So that's a part of one of our proposals. We also propose, currently we don't have an income requirement, so we're hoping to have a need-based system where you can say, I'm a part of, I'll say Longmont Cares. It's a city organization that we've kind of talked about working with them, that if you're a part of this, it means you're either this, or this, and we're good with all of that. And then you could be a part of the scholarship. But that's something we're working on. If we go to the 300, as it is, anybody can come to us with need, and we'll do the $100. And then the free swim lesson program, which council approved 2 years ago, has just been amazing. That's been something we had to figure it out the first year, how to offer them. But at this point, 350 took lessons, and we were given $15,000 to do that. And that was great. That's just an amazing program that we all consider to be the most important thing we do in recreation, swim lessons. Keep people safe.
What kind of demographics are you seeing with the free swim lessons?
I don't have a good answer for that.
I would love to see that. And like the change in demographics with free swim lessons, like we hitting populations that have been underserved in the past.
We try to, yes, yeah. I mean, that's where we want to get, obviously, are folks that don't come to us. I mean, we want to make we want to make everybody ground proof, and certainly what we consider communities we're not great at getting to. That is a goal of ours. I can see it on here, but we've talked about that internally. Certainly the last couple of years of finding different ways. And we're also cooperating with museum and library to look at some different ways of getting out there. We got some good ideas. Grants, not that impressive this year. We were big post-COVID when we were getting those. Okay, so this kind of moves on to the comparatives. And I'll mention that I think what's interesting here is that the hot, dry summer did really well for us with numbers and swimming, but then you offset that with losing turkey trot, losing a lot of rhythm at Roosevelt. It was too hot to run our Rogers River run in the second weekend of July. So those things have never happened. Like all three of those things haven't happened like that literally ever. So if we have a regular year and a regular summer, we really expect our numbers to continue to grow. So, and when you see, you can see there, we've got a nice increase, 10%. Again, that could be a little skewed with various reasons, but it'll be interesting to see then what next year looks like, what 25 looks like, I'm sorry. Revenues and expenses. This is our current cost recovery policy. What we cover, not including capital over 5,000, some community events, including holiday lights, use of Richmond type programs, field maintenance, and Sandstone Ranch Visitor Center are not included in that. And then my proposal adds a few things to that, so that outdoor pools, these high use, high capacity areas that have high impact, we'd love to not have those in there. We'd love to maybe those prices stay or even drop under how we're doing it, because we want to maximize those. That's where people want to go in the summer, is to the outdoor pools. So that's an example. And here's so this goes into cost recovery a little bit. And so I think the actual one, and I've been very proud of us. 22 was definitely still in COVID. And we did well. We still covered 72%. 23, we're getting up there, and this is about where we're at. And the problem I have is that the way we're operating, I don't know that we get much past this. We might touch 80, but that leaves us zero flexibility. So there's no flexibility year to year. Because it was how we came in strong is the way we were able to add new positions, add new programs. We're not really there, and I don't see us getting there strongly without a major price increase or something changing. So that's where we're at. I think we'll be right in that zone, right at 75 to 80 zone this year again. Just guessing. Drop-in and activity registrations. It's most of our revenue, and everything else adds up under that. Here's those visits we were talking about with the insurance and how those have changed. So it's interesting. Silver Sneakers is a program that has gone every single year since we started. I think it was 2012. Do you remember? It was right around then. 11 or 12. Every single year that's grown. Every year. It's awesome. And now there are multiple companies that they have competition, which is a really good thing. They're a little stingy compared to the new ones. And I think they'll have to market adjust at some point because there's choice now. Here's that, going back to the who does it. That 91 is not correct. 100% sure that 91% is not right. But he shows how we've increased as we've gotten up to full speed. This number, that 115,000, that's in the range of historical for us. We've been at that somewhat over 100,000 for quite a while. So that's a consistency. And, they cost a lot. They cost a lot to have. I can't tell you why those numbers are like that in that.
That's interesting, yeah.
Sometimes it's ways we figure things out. We've been zeroing this in the last couple of years, so it's questions I'll have to pursue on to her and I tweak that out a little bit. 'Cause that doesn't make sense to me. Right. I think the hours do. That one I know makes sense. So conclusion. Talked about the special events, things canceled to snow. Those are big deals to us. We're really hoping for great events this year that all go. We are looking, as we mentioned, at a replacement for Rhythm at Roosevelt, something new. Very shortly we'll have surveys going out to the public to start to see what do people want. There's a big part of me that guesses they're going to want exactly what we're already offering, but let's go see.
So you're saying replace Rhythm at Roosevelt?
With something new. It's been going for a long time. The last 2 years on the weekend we've gotten burned and then fried by weather, and by fried I mean wet. And so we're a little gun shy about that weekend. We're moving it up to the weekend right after Labor Day, but before Art Walk. That some years that doesn't happen. So we're putting it on a Saturday because Art Walk can be the weekend right after Labor Day. And you don't have the opportunity. Art Walk doesn't want us happening on the same weekend as them.
And you're not overlapping with Unity and the community?
No, that's before, right? There's all sorts of those.
Oh, I know.
So,
it's just always...
Yep. And there's also, and we didn't switch because of this, but Humane Society offers a Oktoberfest the same day as we do Rhythm at Roosevelt. And that's frustrating for them.
Why can't it be just a big old duo festival, like Art Walk and you know what I mean? And you can hear in the distance it's going to change that. We're going to change the name. We're talking about that. We already it's going to be Beats because of the sugar beets.
My proposal.
But
My proposal was a combined event.
Just a big
I didn't
old.
want to do it.
Yeah. And Art Walk isn't put on. It's put on by LDC.
LDC.
Longmont developed the.
Oh, DDA.
LDA.
DDA.
Sorry, I got
Yeah.
the council,
You got it,
some with authority.
It's not exactly. It's actually put on by. It's by Firehouse. So the Firehouse. So it's city affiliated. It's the art center on Fourth.
Yeah, like that.
Fourth
I
Avenue.
do tons of stuff.
They
with
put
Firehouse.
it on, and there's a board, and they didn't want to do that. We proposed having their event, having ours. We connect them all. We do some things between. I believed in a bigger pie. They felt like we would pull from them. And I said, well, let's try. How about for a year? If it doesn't work. They didn't want to do that. So we're trying to find new creative
it's
directions.
a year that it's going to hit the same time, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, in the meantime,
We'll see what people want. If they want what we're offering. We know Longmont loves its concerts. We know that's something. If you throw a concert, people in the city are going to show up and they're going to have a great time. So that almost has to be a part of what we do to attract the numbers that we feel like will really have an impact. But we'll see, and I will let you guys know as we start to get feel for that. In a perfect world, we have a new answer that we can give out at Rhythm at Roosevelt. We announce, say, here's what we're doing next year. That would be what we would like to see. So we're excited about that.
On Turkey Trot, I'm sure that there would be challenges with this, but a rain date or snow date for that event?
Doesn't
obviously
work.
Rhythm for Roosevelt would be harder to do that
Because of the
Turkey Trot.
timing companies. Yeah. because
Timer committees.
yeah,
That's what that's
because
going
they've
to
got
be.
something the next
They've
weekend.
already booked.
They're booked every weekend, so there's no. Yeah, it's the first time in 40 years. First time, and frankly, we could have done it.
Without time.
We could have done it.
Yeah.
Boulder County made a call on that Friday that they wouldn't let us on St. Vrain because of the plows coming and going, and that pushed us over the edge. It was. I woke up that Saturday morning, looked out. We could have done this, but we kind of got put into a corner, and it was not fun. I did not enjoy that. I felt like the right thing did not happen. We always want to do stuff, and it was not wet to where it was unsafe. We all thought it was going to be. The weather forecast was horrible,
Yeah.
but like often it's Colorado, and it just didn't happen that way. So we'll see. But again, first time in 40 years, so hopefully we'll do another 40.
Another 40, right. Okay.
Couple notable achievements. Want to mention, of course, the 4th of July and the ice, getting the ice Zamboni, the new chiller in there. The place is really up to speed right now, and we're excited about next year. We do have some concerns about the concrete underlying right now, but we're ready to go. We shut down well. Really ready for next season. It did well. I'll let you guys know. I'll put it in my report next month about how well we did, because I'll have a complete picture. And then my last thing I put on there, I talked about the struggle with the $480,000 being added to the revenue requirement for us for this year, and how that would be a challenge for next year. And I will keep you guys posted on what we're thinking, what we're seeing, and again, we don't want to raise fees. We have been kind of given no choice, but love to see your support on whatever we want to do here coming up to try to keep us affordable. We really want to be affordable and affect as many people as we can in the community. That's what's really important to us. So, any additional questions? That's all I've got.
I've got a couple.
Do it.
So on the sponsorship side, is it sponsor led? Like, how do you go out and solicit
Yes.
sponsors?
Yes.
And it's based on mostly around events, though.
Yes. Yeah.
We're
Right.
not trying to sponsor facilities.
We're getting there.
Okay.
So we've had a couple sponsorships within the rec center. We've posted a couple banners. We have regularly done that at ICE, and we'll continue to. But now we have a package, and on kind of here's our guideline. Here's how much something's going to cost for X amount of time. Sam has done an amazing job putting together a professional way of going about it. So people can come to us, and they often do. But certainly as Sam goes out concerning various events, and then the groups themselves. So Cinco de Mayo folks will go out, and museum will certainly, they have their regulars and they'll go out for those, and we will too. So it's a combination, and we do expect that to grow. We don't want to become a billboard thing by any stretch, but trying to find opportunities where it makes sense, where there can be some revenue, and it aligns, right? It aligns, and we have left ourselves an out in there to where we can say no if it doesn't align with the recreation goal. Then we can say no. You don't necessarily want to have basketball on Saturday sponsored by Budweiser or Coors, right? Or even Left Hand, right?
In the 1.3 million, like what's this is the hard number? What's the city reach? Right, like, so the big thing, like when we went to vote on the rec center, I got a million times over and over is, well, I just don't use the recreation services. What is recreation services reach in the community?
Scott, I don't have a really good answer to that. We've looked at where we're at. I'll come up with something for that. By the way, the software
I was going to say,
will
the
go
software read.
10 miles towards helping us, because one of the things it can do is say, it can't look inside the rec center, but it can certainly look at people in the parking lot, where they go.
Right.
So where do they go after? Where do they come from? That's a really valuable tool that we would love to see, that gets a lot more exact than where we're selling stuff. And we have some info on that, I know. So I'll talk to Sue Ellen and we'll come up. But we certainly know parts of the community that we're not as effective for distance, for one reason.
Right.
You know, recreation's all about convenience for a lot of folks.
I'm sure the software somehow, again, could look at not the individual's number, but a identifying number that says it's the same
Yeah.
person getting the same service. If you look
Right,
at
right.
how
So
many
you
different
can weigh it. You can weigh it against the population.
against the
Yeah.
population.
You know, what percentage of Longmont
Right.
population uses
Exactly. I'm sure this.
Yeah, the individual user, it's not a number we have on there, but it's a number there's a real number that we actually know. But that's, folks who check in and do those sorts of things. So that's a number we can come up with, but it's impossible for us to know when you're talking about spectators and all of those things. Who is in Longmont, how many are from outside? That's not a number we can come up with, but possibly with this new software we can.
Right. And that
get
could be a
lot
thing
better
for like
estimation.
partnerships. So one of the things that it really is, I talked to Austin, they use it a lot. And, if you do an event like Rhythm at Roosevelt, it can show how many people are going to Sweet Cow afterwards. So you can tell, what kind of impact you're having to the event.
Right.
What's
Yeah.
that? Oh, exactly.
That's
And that's,
ahead of time.
yeah, we were talking about that one, because that is a selling point for sponsorships.
Right.
If you can show these people are going to your restaurant, you want to boost that up, or you completely swamped like 4th of July.
Right.
You couldn't possibly serve more beer.
Yeah.
So
And I have one other question for you. So where are you in terms of capacity for the facilities we have? Right. Can you grow? Do you have room to grow? Are we talking about
it's
how does that work?
the answer is it depends. So at peak needed times, we're pretty much full. It's a complaint. It's a complaint we constantly get on Google that rec center is too busy at 5 o'clock on weekdays. It's too busy on a Saturday afternoon. So there are those various times. You come at 2 o'clock, it's not nearly so busy, but that's not the time when people need us. And it's kind of the same with programs. I don't know why. Thursday nights. Everybody wants to have, all our contractors who run programs want to be on Thursday nights. So Thursday nights are packed. So we're trying to fill some other times, but it's the times people really want to do stuff. We're pretty maxed out. We try to get creative. We'll look at areas that we have, like Lashley Street Station out at Clark Centennial. We've looked at working with the school district that has its challenges, as I think we all know here. So there are options out there, but there is no world where we couldn't use more room and fill it up. I'm very confident of that. And frankly, 1 o'clock on a weekday is a lot different at the rec center now than it was 10, 12 years ago. There used to be nobody there. Now you'll see 30 people. That's kind of the world has changed. Yeah, people working different schedules and working from home and coming at different times. So there's a no answer for that one.
All right. Cool.
Anything
Thank
else?
I'm going to also ask Brandy and Tom. Yeah.
Bundesliga.
This all looks great. I don't have any questions. I do work for CU Boulder in the communication department, and I oversee internships for credit. I don't know if you all would want some support with social media or anything like that, but if you do, connect with me and we can chat through that too, because that could be a big piece is how we're getting everything out, which I think you all do a great job of. But if you ever want interns, let me know.
Brandy, I will reach out to you. I will say interns have become a bit of a challenge the way the laws affect that, in that we have to pay them if they're doing a job that somebody else is already doing, and we have no budget for such a thing. That being said, I would love to talk to you about the ideas those guys have, how they're going about it. So I will reach out to you. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I have one question about the breakdown of visits by facility. generally.
Mm-hmm.
Is that number for the Memorial Building what you expect? I thought that was lower than I expected. It was like 2%. It was close to the ice pavilion.
It's what we expect.
Okay.
It's hard to build momentum there. I've struggled with it. I mean, I've updated everything since I've gotten there. Sue did it before me. I don't want to take all that credit. The building is in really great shape. Now, the drop-in numbers what you're not seeing is all the parties, all the wedding receptions, quinceañeras we do a ton of, ping pong. Last weekend we had a ping pong tournament. So you're not seeing those.
Is the day camp in there?
Day camp would not be a part of that.
Okay,
That
that's-
number.
yeah, that's
Because
a big part of
day
summer.
camp's a day-to-day huge number.
Okay.
That day camp's a huge one.
Right.
We're actually putting in to expand day camp next year to a second site, possibly being in a park, so possibly an outdoor option.
Cool.
It's a budget request that Harold requested for us, so we're happy to put that in, and a vehicle, because if we do that, we need transportation is the biggest challenge with day camps, is getting, because you can't always be at the same location. You got to be able to go to different sites. So,
Cool.
yeah. Any more? Thank you, everybody.
Sure.
Please feel free
Thank
to
you.
think of something, reach out to me.
That's great.
The mouse.
We're going to move on to discuss 2026 budget process. All right. Sit and plan.
Can you guys see the Parks and Trails CIP planning on the online meeting?
Presentation's not pulling up.
Okay, that's what I wanted to see. Let me do something here.
Got it.
Okay. Minus 13. All right. I'm gonna move you guys there. Okay, so I'll walk you guys through the CIP planning process, specific to kind of what we're doing now, since we're in the CIP planning stage right now, with our entries due the beginning of May. Let's see how we get this through dance. So I've put together just a quick overview of kind of what we've got and where we're going, and how we determine how much money we'll have to get there. So basically, in a nutshell, right now our Parks and Trails portfolio, we have 26 neighborhood parks. Soon it'll be 28. That'll be number 27 Fox Meadows, number 28 Nino Gallo. In 23, we only had 25 neighborhood parks, so that's an increase of 3 new parks. We have 6 community parks currently, and then our 2 future community parks being Sisters and Montgomery Farms. So those are 20 to 100 acres in size, a little bit more active recreation. And then we have 11 City of Longmont greenways and trails, with Spring Gulch Phase 3 most recently completed, and then St. Vrain Greenway Phase 13 to go under construction this summer, I understand. So whenever we're looking at CIP planning and how to set it up for success, we have to take basically 4 things into consideration. So first, what are our budget and funding? What are our funding types, and is our budget within each of those funds? What's the project size and complexity? So kind of thinking about, is this one phase, is it multiple phases? And then the delivery method. How can we sell this to anyone in the world that wants to be our partner in design and construction, and what would be the most successful in that outreach? And then what does the schedule look like, which also has a huge effect on how you attract those companies to come in and help with the implementation. So looking at our funding sources, so for parks projects, we've got a few things to choose from. So Park Improvement Fund, so that's a development-based fund. It brings in plus or minus $2 million annually, and that's all from new residential units. It's the development fees that are issued on those residential units. This fund, the Dollar Smiths Fund, cannot be used for any existing parks. This has to be all new park construction. So that's where all of our newer parks have been funded through this fund. So they're kind of running their own track, kind of, their own bank account. So then we have the Park and Greenway Maintenance Fund. So this has been in existence for a very long time. It's currently, it's a $2 per residential unit rate on your utility bill. And it is to support the maintenance, operations, repair, and renewal of our existing park locations as well as trails and greenways. So Conservation Trust is a third funding source that's derived from the Colorado Lottery, about $1 million annually. So that has more strict rules are based on the state of Colorado, but in a nutshell, it's the acquisition, development, and maintenance of new conservation sites. So then we have park grants and donations. We always love donations. That's the simplest form of money to use. And then grants, a little bit more work, but still, if you can get them, it's worthwhile. And then finally, the Public Improvement Fund. So that's the fund we go to last. If we can't find money in any of these other funds to make a project whole based on what we think it will take, we'll ask for money in the Public Improvement Fund. And this is the big bucket, the bucket that everyone wants to pull from. And it's used for all of our capital construction projects that build, expand, or improve public buildings or public facilities. So it's the absolute everything. So you never know what you're going to get. Typically, we've had around $700,000 a year. Last year we didn't get that much. So it just depends on the year and what other people are asking for.
It's definitely to Brother Aaron's question about needing help. I think, in this room, you asked that of Ben, that's the same money that Stephanie would be looking at. So we have competition in this room. So you think when it gets to council, there's lots of people at that trough looking to figure out how to fill that gap. So
There's library, there's
everybody's at that piece. So when you ask how to fill the gap, it's challenging just in this room, but by the time it gets to council, it gets really competitive.
The first two funds are easier for us because we have really essentially all control of those. And for the most part, Conservation Trust, we partner with Grafting Culture. But yeah, the Public Improvement Fund, it's kind of just you ask and you cross your fingers and see if you made a good case for it. That's what I've experienced. So then looking at, all right, so let's pair the projects that we have to the funds and see where we land. So Park Improvement Fund, as I said, those are our new parks. So this year we're putting in the 2026 capital for the construction portion of Sandstone Ranch Phase 4. That's getting ready to hit the street in an RFP for a design build contract with the best value approach, which is the same that we've used for Clover, Dry Creek, Fox Meadows. We're comfortable in it. We'll get that money because we control that bucket. And we've managed that budget pretty well. We've actually had a lot of savings come back on our first three projects, so we're also moving that money into Sandstone to help fund that project. And as projects complete and then it's the same fund, you can continue to then work towards the next one. So, Quail Campus Master Plan improvements, that would be the next one that would come along, and I'll go into kind of the timelines, but that one there's been a lot of discussion as to what that really is. So that's going to involve going back to council, bringing that here, and doing a little more public input to really determine what is that scope of that master plan, realizing that the original master plan had an ice hockey rink. Then there were discussions of pickleball, and then who knows what the next thing will be. So we want to kind of bring that in, and then same with Dry Creek Community Park Phase 2. But once I get into the funds, like you'll see like where the fund balances are, and then it kind of, you don't have to really go much further with some of these conversations right now. But Park and Greenway Maintenance Fund, so what comes out of this fund, so we have parks operations, we've got a couple of full-time FTEs that were required to maintain the new park acreage that we've opened. And you'll see that there's a few more coming in for additional acreage that we'll be opening on this fund. Then operations expenditures for ongoing maintenance in all of our existing parks. We also fund any park pedestrian bridge projects with this fund, as well as the public education and interpretive park signage. And then we also have our park renewals in this fund. So this year we're slated to do the renewal at Hoover Acres Neighborhood Park, and then looking ahead, looking at Clark Centennial Community Park, followed by Sunset Price. Conservation Trust, right now we're not touching. St. Vrain Phase 13 needs it. So Danielle's team is managing that project. So they have all access to those funds just to keep that project moving. In the future, when that project's done, then we'll have the conversation again about where those dollars need to be.
And I'll give a quick heads up. Oh, go ahead.
Well, that just comes strictly from the Colorado Lottery.
Yes.
Not from any of these other things, the betting games and everything like that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
It's
because I started thinking, as I saw that, I thought that was the answer. started thinking a little bit that maybe we need to be lobbying that if gambling is such a great idea and everything, we should, if they would like to continue to have that advertising right in the state, the argument would be really pretty strong, I think, with a lot of folks to say, if gambling is such a great idea, then you don't need to have all the advertising. If it's not such a great idea, and yet you'd still like to keep advertising in the state of Colorado, you will give us a little chunk of that to keep Colorado the green place that people. I mean, that's just something in my head we need to start thinking about as a group. How do we support some sort of concept like that? Because I'm not necessarily convinced we have to allow advertising any more than we would hard liquor and cigarettes and vape pens and all that. So it's kind of along the same lines of
There's a mechanism in place to dispense it too.
Yeah.
We already have it exists.
Right, that's why I'm thinking about it. So I think we need to pursue that. That maybe needs to be something that this group and others in Boulder County, like with the consortium, through the other recreational groups, look at, because we need that money.
Well, and that money can be used on culture, recreation, parks, anything. So
Yeah, so I mean, we need to expand on this.
Right. And that's just for this group, Stephanie, I don't mean to interrupt your conversation, but just because they're a historic piece, it was before anyone in this room, and probably maybe your dad was part of that, but really the city of Longmont said when they first got that those dollars, as Stephanie said, they can go anywhere. It could get diluted really quickly, and everyone just get a little piece, not do much with it. So a council and PRAB really said we want to use that for the greenways. And wanted to get that done. And once that got completed, then it could be broken amongst other pieces. A little bit of complication, can't say complication, but one of the things Harold looked at is open space dollars can also be used for greenways too. So we're looking at how we can start using those open space funds now that is in perpetuity to work with that. However, these last greenway phases are extremely expensive, especially with underpasses and stuff. So we're still going to have to keep some of that conservation trust to keep dollars we have leverage with grants and stuff going, but this group will be part of that conversation to go forward as we complete greenways and say we need, Ben's going to be right in line saying we could use those at the rec center, we could use those at the library, could use those at the museum. Probably the only place we really can't use is the civic center and the DDA, but most of the publicly open places can use those dollars.
Yeah.
So we did get some grants and donations to work towards our projects that are in 25, as well as an additional $100,000 for parks operations and maintenance through 2030. $100,000 will be deposited each year. Over Acres Park, $500,000 will go towards that, which helped with our unfunding last year from Public Improvement Fund. So we're within $100,000 now, thinking Over Acres a full project. So still looking at other ways to do that. So, and then we did get a GoCo grant for a Kensington splash pad. We got $350,000. So that should be installed actually by the end of the year.
What is that grant called?
Greater Outdoor Colorado.
But what's the specific? Isn't that the splash pad project is?
It's the resilient neighborhood as a result of the heat.
That's
The
what
need
I
for
think.
park cooling and all that. So we're pairing that with that work with that contractor and design team.
So it won't be available this year, but next year.
Right. Yeah. And then Public Improvement Fund. So as I said, we have projects that we still need to do, and we don't have any more, any means of doing them with the other funds. So right now, Alta Park renewal is included in the Public Improvement Fund. I think 26 or 27, I can't quite recall. Doing the assessments for the park pedestrian bridges to determine what bridges need to be replaced or repaired. Park ADA upgrades, we tend to partner that bucket with individual renewal projects. Like Over Acres will probably pull from that bucket to make up some of that additional money because it does have a need for some ADA upgrades. And then primary, secondary greenway connections, so that's like all of the internal city greenways, like asphalt to concrete conversions or where we have gaps, things like that. Wayfinding signage, so that's a citywide but bicycle wayfinding. For this year and last year, it's all been allocated to the LDDA to do their wayfinding, and then it's moving outward from there. So there's a group of people that are working to plan the wayfinding throughout the city. And then park renewal. So knowing that, this bucket, parking greenway maintenance, is a limited bucket, and we have a very good idea of what it has, but we still need more money, so we'll still continue to ask for more in public improvement to once again make those projects whole. So Park Improvement Fund. So this is our development fee for our brand new parks. So this is just kind of a snapshot into like how we do this planning. So we have everything divided up by year. So right now we're doing 26 through 30. And then we have each phase. So we have planning and design, construction, land and right of way if there's any purchases, and arts and public places, which is 1% of all your construction. So looking, this is where we are right now. So right now we're in the design phase of Sandstone. We did get the $500,000, and we always put money from our every other year put money into the interpretive and educational signage bucket so that we can continue to update signs as needed. So looking at 26, so we're asking for $5.7 million for Sandstone Phase 4 construction. We already know that we're going to make up the remainder of what's needed because it's about a $9.5 million project just from savings and other projects. And this is what the fund will bear, which I'll show you in the next slide.
All right, I can wait to the end, but when you hear government savings and projects, Stephanie and her team have been amazing at stuff coming in.
Well, I can skip 2 and then I can come back. But so this is how our expenditures have been. So in 23, that's when our team started to grow, and we started hiring people up until the end of 23, and then we're all the boots on the ground getting stuff done. In 24, the amount of money in that fund was $27 million, just because the money hadn't been spent. It was here accumulating every year, but there wasn't anything new being constructed. So we really went to town and built a lot of things, but now we're depleting our bucket. So this year, it's down to $4.9 million. We have $500,000 of it, but we're going to take the remainder of that, move it to Sandstone, and then ask for what else we need. So that brings us on that one up to 6.4. But what you're not seeing here is the carryover from the other 3 projects that are going to make that pump up to 9.5. But then after Sandstone, it's going to go significantly down to 2.2. So then you're looking at what can we do for 2.2 million on a new park? I mean, you can do things, but not the parks that we need to do. It's just like Quail Campus. So looking at that, we've got some money. We could start a design phase and then see if other funds are available. We've talked to Rec about any partnerships with some of their funds for like a pickleball complex or something.
Recreation impact fund.
Yeah. So coming up with some creative ways to kind of move to the next project. So that would be like a 27 design, 28 build on Quail Campus. So then you still have Dry Creek out there, but we still don't know what's coming. So we'll just kind of tackle that as we get there. But we can see that right now, the way it's projected, it's not. This doesn't work on paper. Yeah. But I think that we're working together to find a solution for Quail. It may not be the full build out of the master plan, but it would still have great value to the community. So more to come on that. So park renewals and parking greenway maintenance fund. So this is the one that I said we share with park operations. So typically, if you look at this first line, operations expenditures, it was always about $300,000 a year is what they needed. They didn't have any positions on this fund until this year. So this year, they put 2 positions on the fund, which were, I think they were, let me go to the next slide, Fox Meadows and Needle Gallo. How do you go back? Go over here. So you can see their number has gone up quite a bit. And then you have inflation. And then in 27, they have more FTEs for Quail Campus and then later Dry Creek. So we're bringing in about $1.1 million, $2 per unit. And that's, it's really a crystal ball outlook because you don't know how many residential units there will be. But down here, our finance team projects what they think that revenue will be. And if you look at your operations expenditures in 2030, it exceeds the amount of the 1.1 million that we typically bring in. So at that point, you're not renewing any parks or you're maintaining any parks. I guess we could just leave it at that. No,
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is, we've got the park bridge assessments, we've got interpretive signage, that's small stuff but needed. And then we have $500,000 that we put in there for Clark Centennial. Clark Centennial needs so much work.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That it really can't be called a renewal. It needs to be called like a big project.
kind of like you probably remember Garden Acres, same sort of thing, but that was a renewal and everything became a new park.
We went out there on the site with everyone, with rec, with park operations, with so many internal stakeholders. Everyone told us, what do you need? And made this big list. And it was about $30 million. So we're like, all right, let's imagine we had $2 million, which now I'm like, about $500,000. So the biggest thing with Clark Centennial is pulling new electrical throughout the park, and second is the grading. The grading is horrible, and it needs to be all regraded so that it drains properly. That's the first step, but that doesn't make anyone happy when you close a park down and you scrape it and you grade it and you can't use it.
And then it's redone, and nobody sees anything
Uh-huh.
different. It looks
Right.
It's an area of town where people feel like they really use the park in a sense, not, you know, like
Yeah.
maybe other parts of town they feel that if the park goes down, like Thompson or something like that, they've got other options because maybe they're in their localized wealth and other things like that.
Well, and we talked about phasing it with Sandstone Phase 4, so we build the 4 new ball field complexes, and then we maybe start taking some ball fields offline. It's Clark Centennial.
That allows that cushion for a couple of years.
Yeah. There needs to be some creative thinking on this one, but my thought was it needs to be pulled out of our renewal program and put into its own project. Now, it doesn't help the funding, but it allows to free up some dollars for other parks that really need some help, because Clark Centennial could take the rest of the money for, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 years, and nothing else gets renewed. So I'll show you the graph on this one if you want to see. So this is where we were last year. This is Garden Acres. You can see it was a big project that exceeded the amount of income. I'm not exactly certain how that was funded, but
Did you get some grants and stuff? I know that, and then I'm not sure where the rest came from.
so then in 25, this is where we are right now. So the orange is CIP, so that's renewals. The blue, light blue is operations and maintenance, and then the dark blue is the operations FTEs. So you can see they keep growing every year, and that's really starting to encroach upon our red $2 per unit line. And so as we get further and further, there's fewer and fewer renewals occurring. But what's really happening, if you take the beginning working capital of each year and compound it with what's coming in, plus the deficit that you had, you quickly go down. So the $2 per unit isn't quite keeping up with what we need to be doing, because we're redoing parks on more acreage, but we don't have any more feet.
So
Like
have we
coming in.
run any numbers to see what that number needs to be?
We have.
Yes.
Oh, next slide.
No.
We don't want, this
big
group
is
knows,
that?
we want to be transparent with this group. I think it's very important you should look at CIP and stuff. Harold has asked Stephanie to look at his numbers, but we don't want to get out in front of Harold or council as they start presenting to everyone's point. What can we do to help? We don't want to get too far ahead of that.
We'll probably be an executive session there too.
Yeah.
But we're just clearly identifying, hopefully it's clear, that there's going to be some challenges we need to overcome and some conversations to be had.
And if you pull those Stephanie's graph, if you pull those positions out of it, that $2.
Then you take off the dark blue tops, so you're still not, it still doesn't work. So
Almost seems like now it needs to be almost double that, just from the observation of where.
Or inflation adjusted.
And that's exactly, I think the inflation is that somehow there has to be, when you have a fixed amount, you're always going to hit that point, that
Yeah.
cliff, where now inflation just outpaces your
if we could
dollars.
remove the positions, or yes,
Right.
increase the unit rate, that would help maintain the parks to a certain level that's expected, and a B for a neighborhood and an A for community and.
And I think it's one of the things that I think, again, probably not throwing too much other, but we want to give Harold and council different levers they could look at on how best we could help close that gap. But I think Harold has been pretty good, and that's why those positions are in there, that he really did say we aren't going to build anything new unless we staff it. But that staffing has a cost, and that
Well,
cost.
this line here.
Yeah.
It's just something has to happen,
Yep.
and relatively quickly.
Yeah. And this is the public improvement fund, so I can't project cash flow on this fund because it's a larger fund than just us. But it just goes to show kind of what we're doing. It's just crazy. Like we usually are around 700,000. We're making some really big asks for the parks in the upcoming CIP. This will not all be approved, but pairing that with the graph you just saw, hopefully we'll get a little bit more out of one to keep up with what we need to be doing. Just maintaining and renewing, the assets that we have right now. So this is why you'll see something crazy like that, Sean. And then, as I mentioned, there's also alternate funds. There's the grants. We're also leveraging the ARPA funds for the park cooling project at Kensington and Lanyon, as well as the Boulder County Sustainability Tax Funds. So those parks are getting cooling features, amphitheater-style seating. Lanyon's getting a misting pad. Spangler's getting a splash pad. So it's going to be great for those communities. And in staff updates, I can show you some other fun things that are going on there. But that is my CIP
That's
crystal ball.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a dark crystal ball.
One thing is, I don't think I've ever seen a committee that hasn't had this awful.
Right.
So that everybody has the same awful thing. Although I've never seen it broken up by fund, which is great. I've 10 years being on boards or whatever. I think it's a great way of working.
Well, at Coffee with Council last time I was there in March, this one guy said, well, we should give, all these sort of giveaways. And I was like, do you never want another pothole filled in the city or anything like this or recreational services? It's like, I don't understand. You can't give away a tax break here and everybody gets a tax break. It's all okay. I mean, geez. So I think we're going to have to talk about raising that fee.
I think that's where this group, appreciate you being here and saying that, and I think that's where we're looking for creative ideas from this group. Is one of the things that pains Stephanie and Jeff and Ben and me is that also, can we really afford to keep building stuff? I mean, everyone loves a new park, but every time you build a new park, the maintenance fee goes up, the new staffing goes up, and that
It impacts these guys.
It impacts
These
these
guys
guys.
need a new fields guide by the time Sam's.
So that's the really thing we're looking at.
And hopefully in athletics.
You don't keep people, if you pay mid-range, you got to pay people,
Right.
Maybe not top, but higher than mid.
And Stephanie's been great at doing that. We really ask these groups like project out like 10 years and you start seeing these cliffs, but that cliff comes up really quick. And again, you start adding a park onto it, and I think sometimes we look at the CIP cost, but really adding up those funds and saying, what does it cost then to get the truck, the sprayers, the chemicals, the staff, the programmers, and it adds up pretty quick. And I think that's what we're trying to do is, like Stephanie mentioned, at least some sort of crystal ball as cloudy as you get out there, but at least we should not have big surprises for council.
We know it's happening, and I saw
Right.
it in the numbers that came in, that our new projections. I'm like, it's happening. Like, I'm seeing it happen.
And this is not just the loss of grants or anything like that from the federales, right?
This is really, no, it's nothing to do with federal.
And we got fortunate. Stephanie, your team, okay, I can't say enough about that team. They came in, and when we were saying, we're going to be Prairie Brigade Cup, we got like a grant the next day approved. Button Rock, same thing. We've been very fortunate in having projects and people that have trying to keep things moving quickly so we don't lose those.
I think it'd be a good study session topic to talk about what you just said, the trade-off between building new parks and the ongoing maintenance burden, and how does that at some point rationalize?
Right.
It'd be cool to talk about that further at some point.
If you say it out loud, it's kind of painful for me too, but I can hear Ben too.
Well, you have
But it's just reality.
we have to
more
start saying it out loud. We have to start
stuff.
saying it out loud enough for people to recognize that it's a serious problem.
Right.
We could have a bake sale.
I say that a lot.
I think you said it at March the 10th.
I did, yeah.
You can sell a lot of
Ben is
these.
saying we're going to have to raise some fees too
Yeah.
for the facilities, if I heard you right. And,
We're on our way.
And I think this is, again, I think sometimes we feel like, are we asking, you spend a lot of, Ben talked about volunteers, you volunteer times, I think sometimes it feels like we just present to you, but I think this is one where that we really could dig in and think about all those aspects from the true economic costs, the inflation piece, the equity piece, and how do we really try to be creative, because there's also things like Tabor out there that impact this too, when you start talking about fees too. So I think it's going to take some work to figure out what is.
Michael Bennett seems to be, saying that it's finally coming around to that idea that it's just not feasible to keep that level up with Tabor there. But the other side of things is, like I was saying about the gambling. If you're going to sell it, that's, if you want those, that's considered advice. We don't advertise marijuana. We need to think about that. Nothing's free, man.
Yeah.
But that would come from all of us really focusing on lobbying people and really pushing.
So I guess my question, great presentation, by the way. That was
Excellent,
awesome. What are you guys doing the next 3 weeks beyond what you showed us?
The next 3 weeks? Oh,
Like
so we
you're
put the
getting towards
draft.
this. This
we
seems
put
pretty done to me.
What you saw, so we have entered into a system, and there's
Okay.
a lot of justification you have to do in that. So we had everything entered, I think, by a couple of Fridays ago. And so right now, finance is going through cash flow. I think it's coming up tomorrow. We're going to have the cash flow discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be what I see on my spreadsheet, because I get all those numbers from finance. But they go through and they balance all the funds. So that's where it's like, okay, so Stephanie's asking for 700,000 and Ben's asking for $1 million. Are we going to give,
It probably is about a minute.
what are they going to do to
pretty
give
good.
each of us something, but we don't get all of it? And so hopefully during those conversations, you really want on each of those funds all the players at the table to really speak to their projects, because sometimes like we'll split projects between park improvement or public improvement and park and greenway. They can't unfund one side; it's tied to the other. You can't kill a project. So that's where the people need to be at the table and have the conversation.
In another piece, just an example, again, in this room, it's hard enough to keep those conversations going, but again, when you have a project like a greenway that has street funds tied to it, and you have open space dollars going to get that greenway fund done, and streets decides they need to cut some street funds, which was actually the leverage to get the dollars from the open space funds to get the grant. It's a lot of communications that really we're trying to do a better job of making sure we're all on the same page as we go forward.
But I feel like it's gotten better.
I really do too.
When I look back at the 2025 CIP that's out there are projects in the funded, partially funded, and unfunded list that I didn't hear you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Are those still on a list somewhere, or do things drop off?
I didn't go through the entire CIP.
Okay.
I didn't touch on any of
These
the
are just ones
unfunded
you're
ones.
proposed to be funded,
So
basically.
whenever I did the like park improvement fund
Mhm.
with like Union Reservoir and Montgomery Farms and Sisters, they were listed there, but they're unfunded at this point.
Okay.
They're just too far out beyond the CIP.
I mean, I think this is the first year since I've been involved that our big group meeting about CIP, we didn't even see the unfunded ones. They didn't even show up on the list. So we're only talking about ones that are funded or partially funded.
Mm-hmm. I think it's clearer. I always find the distinction complicated.
Oh,
It's-
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
talking
like
about
the-
being res-
Well, partially,
Right,
you
it's
can
just-
still do it
it's
if
an
you can
idea.
find money.
Yeah, right.
But unfunded, you don't want to lose track of it.
That's
So
the big piece
really
for us too, is we want to
why
make
it's
sure
so
that
good.
also it's like why this is a new project. It's going to take a while as opposed to it says a 20-year history, and we've been asking for it too. So again, I think trying to keep some sort of just reminder that this is an important piece for the community too, without being
You have
confusing.
first appeared on CIP date.
I know.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
you
yeah.
could do that in the
Yeah.
system. You can
But
set
I
up
don't
different-
think
What comes get. And it's been always been interesting to see those really giant ones, right? Like greenways and
Right,
stuff like
center.
that. They're partially funded, but you can get projects done because they're broken up within
Right.
the entire. That took years for me to figure that one
Yeah.
out. So.
Yeah. It's the bulk of our work was a couple weeks ago, but now it's that fine tuning and the moving and the bartering, and so that starts tomorrow afternoon.
And that's the CIP side, and the whole operational budget side is now the next piece. So
Which pulls from that fund. This is
Yeah.
a fund discussion. So like the maintenance operations budget pulls from that fund. And general fund we didn't talk about
right.
because that's where positions should come from.
Yeah, I've got lots of talk about that.
I just want to pause real quick, make sure that Brandy and Tom, if you had any comment and questions about the presentation, make sure you have an opportunity to ask those. And if no, that's okay. Just want to make sure we're including you. Okay. I'm going to take silence as a no. Any other last comments on this? I think this was a great agreed. Like,
is there anything in chat that's new? That went from 3 to 4, so I don't know if there was.
And dark.
Very comprehensive and dark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we agree, Tom.
Very good.
All right. Okay.
Sorry, one question.
Yeah,
About that
please.
fee, just to know how you guys are approaching it. That fee was a utility fee, right?
It's on your utility bill.
So it can be raised by the city at any time.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's the piece, so that again, I think we hit a Tabor. I don't know it all, but
That's
I
changing
know
right now too.
Yes,
but yeah.
exactly.
But in theory,
in theory, yes,
it was not voted
council,
in.
correct.
Yeah.
Which is again what that trigger could be because it wasn't voted in.
And I mean, since I'm sitting here and we're doing CIPs, mine are very small, so we have 2 funds that we essentially use right now. We have several unfunded ones out there for recreation, but we have 3 active ones. One's a fitness modifications and renewal to the rec center. There's enough money in there to do design. The work is we got a real number this year. We spent some money to get a real number. The work is about $1.5 million. So that's not funded. We have about $400,000 to do actual design if we get to that point. And then it's Public Building Fund 145 is recreation is the bulk of that one, but that's also museum, library, children youth services, senior center, at least one other, and a couple others. Rec is the bulk of it, and so I kind of manage that fund. And that one's been consistent. That's how we keep the doors open as far as getting new equipment, replacing stuff so that we don't get stale. Because they discovered way back when that if that was an annual budget thing for recreation, we'd never get enough money funded and the system would break down. So that one is crucial to us for replacing, doing small projects, keeping things up to date. And then PRO 102 is pools. And as we all know, they're very expensive. And that's a pretty consistent $600,000 a year that we have from that one. And that's all we've got in CIP right now. So there you go. Overall.
Thanks for the insight. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll get from staff. But you have some questions you asked. Do you want to bring anything up that you want us to touch on? Some of our conversations.
Well, there's some things that were going to be in there, but
okay.
Yeah.
We can.
It's the next thing I think gets us there.
We'll get there.
It's the next thing, yeah.
Let's discuss items from the packet.
Oh, okay.
What do you think?
Sure.
Okay. Were there any items in the packet that you wanted to discuss?
Let's go to Dry Creek.
Huh.
Okay.
So for not the insiders
Skills
in the
corner.
room, I asked them questions about Dry Creek Trail and the status of that and what's going on.
That'll be
cool.
work on
I wonder
sharing
about this
on
too.
that.
Because
Oh, this was not in the packet. I see. This was okay.
Well,
it's on the.
It was in the packet.
It's in the packet as a
Addendum.
It was okay.
Whatever those
Just
updates are.
pre-shared your question.
Yeah.
So they're prepared.
Good.
So the question was, what is the route for cyclists, pedestrians from the east side of the underpass and the west side of the new trail? It's this. Which you know. So it is a circuitous route through the sidewalks around the parking lot.
Yeah, so across the main entrance.
So this is shown as yellow because this is the limits of the wayfinding that Alex, the project manager on this project, is working on. So there's a really complicated wayfinding package that is being put together by the design team. And so that'll be implemented through here to better explain how you are going to continue to then get to the new part of the trail.
That's like signs and paint and all those things.
Yeah. I don't know about the paint, but I know the signs. And I can ask him if it's the paint too. I honestly don't know. But then here you get to the new trail, and then the new trail comes along here to Sunset Way. And then at this point, it's striping, so it's bike lanes going up here and over to Sunset, and then we'll cross and then continue up here.
How are you going to cross Sunset?
So, is the east end of the trail coordinated with traffic on Sunset, frontage road, signage, and striping? There currently aren't bike lanes along Sunset in this section. So Alex says yes, there is internal coordination occurring between Sunset, and State Highway 119 intersection project and the Dry Creek Trail project. Alex is the project manager on both of those projects. So he is coordinating the crossing with the new work that's occurring on Sunset. He also states the Sunset pavement between Boston and Kansas.
It's like 2,000 miles.
So here all the way up to Boston. Is part of the larger Sunset and State Highway 119 intersection project, which includes striping new bicycle lanes between Kansas and Nelson, so this section. He says the only thing that might take a little bit of, it might be a do-si-do. I love that he said that, so I wrote it in here too. This part here, between the two contractors, as to kind of what that sequencing looks like, to make sure that it's all safe whenever. I don't know what the construction phasing will be, and what those closures look like. But he gave me this information today to share.
All right.
If that helps.
Yeah. At least it's like my fear was we got the trail to the bridge and then we stopped and then we have another 3 years to get someone onto. Yeah.
That's the question I have is like, what's the rush on this? If the Sunset work is not going to start for a couple of years, and there's no schedule for Sunset, I think.
I think Alex is working on this right now.
Is there? I can't find anything on the city website about it. It's so frustrating.
I'll get it.
Oh no, the city website's horrible. The new one has no information.
So like, if that's starting soon, I think it's great. If they're going to say it's starting soon and they wait 3 years, then we build a path to a suicidal crossing on
Right.
Sunset.
Alex
so
is
just
managing.
just because like my son's daycare is right here, and like
Yeah.
no one will ever cross the street on a bike,
Right.
or they will die.
Yeah.
Like it is
I agree.
incredibly unsafe.
I mean,
So
you
just
can't
make sure
walk-
we
you
don't
can't
build
walk-
it until
Yeah.
we have something to go to,
Yeah.
because it sounds like we're doing that.
So, Alex, he's working on both of these. He's new and he's great, and he's a doer. We've also talked, so whenever this goes out to bid, it'll probably be in July to go out to bid for construction. Trish on our team is going to oversee the construction of the trail alongside Alex for doing the construction portion of Sunset and State Highway 119. She'll have support from Alex, just like she gave their team on Spring Gulch Street Phase 3. So it'll be a collaborative effort, but that gives him the ability to then manage the Sunset and 119 construction portion. So there'll be like a tag team grouping of 2 project managers on that. So, Scott, did you have any other questions?
The next question is not in the packet. I don't think is maybe I read it somewhere. Rough and Ready, repavement and
Yep,
filling
and
in there,
moving a little bit. Rough and Ready's over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's in the budget already, right?
Yeah, the design is. The construction, we're putting it in for 26.
Okay.
And I'm working with the streets team to see if they can contribute some money too. They do have a lot of priorities for 26, but whatever they have, they'll let us know. So there's 2 scenarios. Right now on Rough and Ready, there's asphalt about here, and then it turns to concrete. So the base would be to just replace the asphalt and move it closer to the ditch so it maintains a distance from the fences, because it's right against all the fences along that trail.
Right.
The ideal scope would be to remove the entire section of trail and move it out away from the fences. There's a lot of different kinds of fencing and trees and things growing into the trail.
Yeah.
But if budget allows, then we would do the whole trail.
Brutal there.
Yeah.
And so, the bigger question then is, because that's like a small version of oligarchy.
This isn't oligarchy.
No, I'm saying oligarchy has a lot of the same structural problems that Rough and Ready does.
Here's oligarchy. So everything red is existing.
Yep.
And then bright yellow means we're doing it in 25. It's already underway, like design and almost to construction. So, for instance, Tatiana's replacing that bridge.
Yep.
And then we're going to come up here. So this section, this orange section, is in the Transportation Mobility Plan. And that's where it's going to have the protected bike lanes. They're going to take that down to 1 lane each way and then do protected bike lanes as well as side paths for pedestrians from 21st to Spencer, I think it is. I've got to stop hovering up there.
From May to Spencer?
Yes, along 21st.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then you come down to that weird angled thing. So that is that way. But we talked about using one of the replaced bridges in the future when we have money to do this to span it at a more natural angle.
Okay, instead of taking.
Yeah, because there's a
two
lot of right
crazy
angles
turns.
and weirdness there. But then there's the section of dirt we know about. So anything in cyan, that's in the future, the near future, not way future, but it can't be in 25. And it's not going to be in 26 because we need to fund the rough and ready. So maybe 27. That's where we could infill that section that's dirt behind Discount Tire. And then this is going through Langen. It was intended to go along the oligarchy there. And then it connects down through the alley, and that was its master planned route. And then it hits, it's at 17th, and it goes over, and it's an on-street bike trail where it's purple. And then it goes down to this section where we have to build another section of trail along the oligarchy. And then it's red, so this exists. And then this section, asphalt, is getting converted to concrete late summer before the kids go back to school with the streets program. So once Charlie, he's a civil engineer with the street team, once his street work is done, he's going to use the same contractor to do those asphalt to concrete conversions. Here that leads to that elementary school, as well as over here, there's another section of asphalt that needs to change to concrete. And then the rest of it goes down to Third. So that's the plan for the oligarchy.
Okay. Why that missing section between 9th and Mountain View? Like why?
Oh, 9th?
Or
This
is
one?
That cyan one. Like it just seems.
I can't say why.
Because you look at it, you're like, there's actually a social path that people take.
I can't say why.
Yeah. I don't know if there's some weird
I
history
mean,
there.
I know that it's in the master plan to go there. It
Yeah.
just seems like maybe there wasn't funding or capacity to put it in. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any history with that.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's
That's
awesome.
not really anything in the city, but that section right up there, I don't think I've ever found.
Which one?
That just basically where the cyan starts there going north. That whole thing from there north, I don't.
Oh, like,
I thought I
well,
knew
this
where
is a
everything
street,
was,
and
but-
this is an alley, and then it's missing, and then it's a trail again,
Okay.
and an alley, and dirt.
So I think I've gotten lost doing that, like running that and gone like, I'm in somebody's yard now.
There's a badge you get if you complete the whole thing.
Yeah, because even when you look at like Laney Park, you're like, oh, it could have done this, and instead they paved it a completely different way. And you're like, well, now it doesn't align to where the path would seem to go and leave the most amount of park in the middle. Yeah. So it's.
But we are aware, and we're working on a plan.
That's good.
That's a great product. A lot of research.
They should use the social trail. I believe in social trails.
Yeah. Well, until you pop out, a cop is standing there asking you why you were just running through people's backyards.
Yeah,
Which
but
is
no, I mean,
technically
like,
not
that's
true, but
But it's a good way to
First-
design things is like see where the social trail is because
First
that
Bueller's
no,
Day Off.
that's where it should go. It's like
Yeah.
watching where the water actually runs, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions, Scott?
I think that was my.
I thought you had another one.
Did I have another one today?
The St. Greenway detour.
Oh yeah, I did. Oh, okay, sorry.
And you're like, no. So,
Lean the witness.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so this one is in the packet too.
So-
yeah.
we all should know that the trail between Boston and Sunset is currently open past Isaac Walton. Army Corps of Engineers should have started tree removal work this week, but they're waiting until the water goes down a bit in June before they can do any of the levee work. So the trail would most likely still be open until some point in June. And we know how their deadlines go, so we're defaulting to trail open until they tell us it has to close it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what Steve said too. So. Okay.
And then when that happens, this will be closed, and then we'll have to route, if you're going north, back over to the old way if you're not on a bike that wants to ride on Sunset or on Boston. I mean, you can go up to the service of Boston and ride your bike over to Sunset and then get over. If it's like little kids and families, they might not want to.
But the sidewalk isn't going to happen until his next slide.
So, the sidewalk, I asked Tom Street, he had told us last time that was going to be around Memorial Day when that was done. I reached out, he hasn't responded, so I'll follow up on that,
Okay.
on the actual timeline, because that's what he had said last time.
Okay.
It was about Memorial Day.
I also heard midsummer. So yeah.
Can you just revisit what they're planning to do?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So, temporary sidewalk. So this is the Boston Bridge.
Custom,
What?
custom slide deck. That's great.
Boston Bridge sidewalk project ends here, and so the civil engineering team with the city are looking to put in a temporary sidewalk that's up to 6 feet wide that'll allow pedestrians or families to go on bikes and connect over to Sunset. There also will be bike lanes added to Boston. I don't know that they're there now.
There are bike lanes, yeah, just covered in dirt.
But on Boston.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Why is there another pathway down to the creek on the north side? on the west side, there's a set of gates right basically where it says B from Boston Bridge. There's a big other like new ramp that exists. It's basically.
I couldn't figure it out.
But basically around here, there's this
saw that.
other pathway that goes to here now.
Um,
And just basically a big.
I wonder if
open
it's like for
That's-
accessibility or something.
No, it's
What is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to think, because I think that section right there is, I don't see, there's a weird piece with that. I think Coach has Boulder County, and there might be something they're doing there too, so.
Oh, okay, there's some other times. So what's a temporary sidewalk?
Well, this property hasn't been developed yet. When it is, they'll have to put in a real.
They'll cut.
Yeah, because the grading here is a challenge from what I understand, which is why they might only be able to go up to 6 feet. So it'll be temporary in nature.
They're taking
Is it
that out.
asphalt?
Is it the game plan?
They don't know if it's asphalt or concrete.
Okay.
What would you say,
Are
Sharon?
they gonna,
They would take that out and do
They
it
wanna-
with all the standards and landscaping and all of that.
I mean, I see a lot of developments, which one is this one referred?
I can't, River something.
Rivertown? No,
Rivertown,
Rivertown,
Riverset?
because that's across the
Riverset?
street.
Yeah, Riverside.
Maybe Riverset.
I didn't think this one was.
Rivertown's
Right.
across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know what the status on that is.
That's where all the
Little
tree
bit.
stumps are, right?
Hmm?
That's where all the tree stumps are, right?
Rivertown's been brought in, but it hit
The white painted tree stumps.
the final plan is not,
No,
so.
I don't think it's hit DRC
I
yet.
have to try this from a tree company.
Yeah, from the west side. Yeah, from Sunset.
I think those are all the questions you have.
Yeah, that's awesome, because, yeah, it is going to answer all of them, so that's great, thank you.
Yeah.
That's really time.
Were there any other items in the packet
I won't
the
take them.
board wanted to raise?
I had one,
No,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
You've been working
Same.
on that for,
There's a mention
3 years now,
about
so.
Boulder County giving county guidance on property acquisition priorities in late Q1. And that you bring it to the
Oh.
board in late Q1.
For that'd be Danielle with the open space. So every year, some communities with the GoCo dollars, they'll actually give funds to the communities. Boulder County takes those and works with the
Yeah.
partnering agencies to see how best they can, with the open space dollars, work with partnering communities. So Danielle will be working on that, and she will bring that to this group. We actually, because of, it would have been the Adam Dairy, we recognized we got a significant amount of money to do that. And again, because it's split, we didn't ask for anything. I think it was last year
Right.
fall. So she's
I remember that discussion.
reevaluating. Yeah, she's
Okay.
reevaluating it right now.
But they haven't given us a deadline, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other items in the packet? Brandy and Tom also want to ask y'all.
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
None for you, Tom.
All right. Then we can move on to items from staff.
Yeah, I moved mine up to the front. So
Yeah,
I could answer
front.
that, so.
We didn't move
I've
the agenda
spoken a lot.
technically.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Can I share a couple
Please,
of pictures?
yeah.
The fun stuff?
Great.
Okay, so the grand opening for Thompson Park is on the same day, but earlier as Aaron's event. I don't know why it's doing this. Let me make sure. I'm going to share this. Hold on.
Will it be worn out by then, I think?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Get on the replacement schedule. What was that?
Let me start again. Sorry, guys. Share. That's the wrong program. Hold on.
Yeah.
Share.
it's the back and forth.
Share.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. And then do this. Okay. So you're helping with this grand opening
Mhm.
planning.
Yeah.
I hear you have music coming.
We've got a bluegrass band playing. Yeah.
There's been a-
There's a group of old timers that plays in the park kind of informally every Saturday in the summer.
Uh-huh.
They're gonna come play for the open.
That's awesome. It's gonna be like the park on steroids. Like the recreation team's helping plan it. Elisa's going to town. You're working on it with some other neighbors, I believe, and
It's gonna be too many people.
there's
For
good,
sure.
there's like
Some
tables.
will be.
It's like everything this park can do will be shown that day.
Wow.
On one like 2 or 3 hour window, so 2 hour window. But these are some fun things. So we found this on Slides and Sunshine. They went on and on about the state park in Longmont. They love the nature theme at Thompson Park. I need to get rid of this. Stop hovering. They like the scavenger hunt that's built into the play equipment, and they just, I've heard there's just been so many kids. That's been the only complaint is that there's too many people at the park.
Oh, I get that. My next door neighbor, well, I could see the park from my house, and the next door neighbor kids, they're like, I love it, but there's always too many kids. And so like they wait, they scope it out and wait till like
Yeah.
it dies down. They're like, we're gonna run, we're gonna go like an hour or two.
The day that it opened was a Saturday, and they took the fencing down, and it was like swarmed upon. Like
Wow.
everyone was just watching.
Yeah.
And it wasn't announced that this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good, yeah.
Then Dry Creek has been getting some really good feedback. So feedback
Ben
from
and Chris.
and there's Ben and Chris. So I wanted to give some feedback. Our first days at Dry Creek Park, it was amazing. I'm the owner and manager of Longmont Indoor Soccer and Boulder Indoor Soccer. Dry Creek's our best facility venue for either business. Boulder has nothing like this facility. The community was in awe. The parking lot has ample parking. The field turf is awesome, flat, and professionally installed. The lights came on and took another place, took it to a new level. Directive style lighting was top notch. 200 plus families in our program were thrilled to be at Dry Creek. And it goes on, talking about how great Longmont is and how it's worth the wait for the past couple of years. And then another one from, let's see, who's he with? Gridiron. Stephen Barnes. You know him?
I know Peter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Very
But
good.
he also, their group was just thrilled to use it, and the
great.
kids had a blast on it, so yeah,
That's
it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Clover Meadows art installation.
Oh, wow, that's great.
I haven't seen
Lovely.
that.
I wish-
It looks like a
And there it is.
So
It's good in the sketch.
you can see it. So like the chain is like in theory going below the sidewalk and then coming straight back up,
Oh, wow.
and then the pedals are benches that you can sit on.
Yeah.
And that's the artist.
That is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, way
Wow.
better than Mary.
I had no idea it was coming. That's awesome.
Came out
Wow,
fantastic.
that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's called In Tandem.
Yeah.
So that happened. And then cooling, so Kensington Park, Tatiana's been working hard to do some public engagement. She's soliciting ideas from the residents for the splash pad with the design team. So the design team helped put together this survey, and they're sending out postcards with a QR code to the survey to get feedback. They're going to actually expand the area that they're sending it out to by a few blocks east and west to really capture as many people that are within close walking proximity. And then she also held a session at the youth center at Clark Centennial and handed out paper surveys, talked to them, showed them photos, and got feedback. They all wrote down some ideas of what they wanted. Those were mostly high school students, but still it was interesting to see what they wanted. So more to come. I think the postcard mailers are due April 25th to come back. Yeah, April 25th. The online surveys from those. So I'm in Lanyon. She's posting this over at Lanyon. It'll be a kind of a misting feature, and it's kind of next to the playground. It'll be another like a concrete pad area, but with, you can see down here kind of some amphitheater seating, and then the misting feature will be out here, and people can go and gather and play in the mist, and adding a couple of shade shelters and things. And then, Fox Meadows grand opening will be Saturday, May 17th, and the time that day is to be determined. It's coming along quickly. That's only about 3 weeks. And recreation team's been huge in helping plan that event. So,
Very good people.
Nito, the raw water pond's almost done, and they're forming for the concrete paths in the park. I do know they also have the playground equipment on site at this point, ready to install. And then the Quail Recreation Center daycare playground replacement starts next week.
Yeah, we got moved up.
And then that's it. That's all I have to update with.
Nice.
Yeah, we're out of time here, so.
We're a minute ago.
Any items from the board? Okay, we can move to adjournment then.
I'll move to adjourn.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor? We're moving for Randy and
Oh, and he killed him. I think I saw.
All those opposed?
They said no. but
Tom's
they were
like,
on
no,
the-
voted
All
yes.
right.
So much I wanted to talk about.